Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and the topic for today is continuing on in the series looking at some of the common characteristics of narcissism. Now, while not everyone with narcissistic traits may exhibit the same behaviours, they do share some common features. Features such as a huge sense of entitlement, a grandiose sense of self-importance, there's being highly disagreeable, a constant need for validation, and a lack of empathy for other people. And these characteristics would be long-term and pervasive, not just once in a while. But another common characteristic, which is the topic for today, is a strong resistance to criticism. Now, being highly resistant to criticism is often associated with grandiose narcissism. With covert narcissism, what we often see is a heightened sensitivity to criticism. But regardless of how the narcissism manifests, any form of criticism is generally resisted and rejected. So today I'm going to outline some of the reasons behind their insecurities and why criticism can be particularly threatening to them. I'll give some examples of situations where they might be or feel criticized and some common reactions. So, if you find this video interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. Now, to be fair, I don't think anybody likes to be criticized. Even when it's constructive, sometimes it can seem hurtful. Sometimes we may feel disappointed in ourselves, but particularly if it is constructive, we can learn from it, we can grow. But for people with very strong, deeply ingrained narcissistic traits, criticism can be crushing, sometimes even humiliating. It's like an attack on their very core. And to understand why, people with narcissistic tendencies tend to use a facade of superiority, arrogance, self-righteousness, sometimes even helplessness, to compensate for deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. Because at the very core of narcissism lies a false and very fragile sense of self. They believe they are special, entitled, unique, flawless, and can become very defensive, sometimes even offensive, if that sense of self is challenged or threatened. So any kind of criticism, whether perceived or genuine, might expose their flaws, their errors, their vulnerabilities. This is where we often see maladaptive defense mechanisms. They tend to reject, deny, or dismiss any form of criticism to preserve their self-image. Even reality itself can be denied, rewritten, or rejected to protect their false sense of self. And criticism doesn't just have to mean negative feedback. To people with strong narcissistic traits, criticism could be anything that doesn't collude with their version of themselves or their version of the world. And that could be just a difference in opinion, or maybe not seeing something the way they see it, or perhaps even pointing out a genuine error in order to help. But some of the common ways in which narcissistic people can be or feel criticized would be, first of all, in their personal relationships. A narcissistic person could struggle to accept any criticism about their behavior, regardless of its impact on others. For instance, if a partner were to express concerns about feeling neglected, unappreciated, or being treated unfairly, a narcissistic person might respond with low mood, depression, confusion, or anger. They might even accuse the partner of being overly sensitive or unreasonable. But they tend to deflect responsibility, turn the discussion around, try to make the partner feel guilty for raising what could well be valid concerns. This is often referred to as the Darvo method, and I have made videos on that topic previously if you want to watch those. Next, a characteristic of narcissism found in the DSM is believing that others are envious of them. Now, I would add that they believe others should be envious of them. Due to their constant need for validation, if someone isn't overly impressed by them, they might take this as a personal slight against them. They might up their game, they might show off a bit more in order to get attention, or they may even become resentful. Their concept of themselves feels challenged. It's like, you're not seeing me the way I see me, and they can react negatively. In a workplace, a narcissistic person might consistently reject any constructive feedback provided by their co-workers, sometimes even their managers. For example, if a work colleague suggests improvements to a project, they might become defensive, dismissing the suggestions as irrelevant or misguided. They might find fault after fault with the idea or criticize the person suggesting it, perhaps even make up outrageous things that could go wrong if the idea were to be tried. During a staff appraisal, if the manager were to suggest areas in which they could improve, again, they may become defensive. So instead of considering the feedback objectively or seeing it as something to help improve, they may view it as a personal attack on their abilities. And this kind of attitude can lead to resentment and strained working relationships. Now, if they are creative, if they are artistic, narcissistic people can have difficulty accepting feedback or critiques of their work. Again, they may feel attacked and respond defensively. Instead of seeing it as an opportunity to grow, refine, improve their art, they might reject the feedback outright, just clinging to the belief that their work is already perfect as it is. Now, in a family setting, a narcissistic parent can struggle to handle criticism from the children as well as the partner. For instance, if a child were to express feelings of upset or emotional pain caused by the parent's actions, a narcissistic parent might respond with denial, dismissing the child's emotions as baseless or overblown. They may even remind the child of all the sacrifice they've made, tell the child how ungrateful they are. This kind of reaction can lead to emotional distance, unresolved issues, and an inability to establish a healthy parent-child bond. Now, on social media, narcissistic people can be quite judgmental and highly critical of others for anything that they post, but they can't really take any kind of questioning or criticism themselves. In fact, sometimes it might only take them to read or see something, even from a complete stranger, but it's something that challenges their worldview, and they can react as if it's an attack against them personally. In some cases, they may just moan or complain that not enough people have liked or commented on their post. It's like they haven't received enough validation. So there are just some of the ways in which narcissistic people can be or feel criticized by others. So what is it fuels the rejection to criticism? Well, narcissistic people tend to possess an inflated sense of entitlement. So due to their imagined status, they believe they deserve special treatment and are exempt from criticism. They perceive themselves as inherently superior and immune to the rules that apply to others. So when confronted with reality, they may feel outraged as they believe that challenges their sense of entitlement. They are also overly dependent on external sources of validation, so criticism or even just a lack of positive feedback can bring up a fear of losing the status they believe they deserve. Also, narcissists lack empathy, and empathy is not only being able to understand and resonate with other people's feelings, it's also an important aspect of emotional intelligence. A lack of empathy can lead to difficulties acknowledging other people's perspectives, so they might see criticism where there isn't any. And a lack of insight can limit their capacity to understand why others might offer constructive feedback. Remember, they believe themselves to be perfect, flawless. Others are supposed to admire them and envy them. So this can make them more resistant to accepting criticism as a means of personal growth. Narcissistic people also have an all or nothing way of thinking. They tend to see situations as all positive or all negative. So anything that challenges their self-concept, even just a difference in opinion, can feel like an attack, a rejection of their supposed greatness. Some struggle to recognize the nuances of feedback, so they dismiss it entirely rather than evaluating it constructively. Because again, behind their facade lies this fear of exposure of their true insecurities and flaws. And how they react towards criticism can differ in various situations and from person to person, perhaps depending on where they are on that narcissistic spectrum. It can also depend on what other issues may be co-occurring with the narcissism. But criticism, even when it's well-intentioned, can be perceived as an attack. Internally, they can feel deflated, empty, humiliated, outraged, and this can bring a strong emotional reaction. They can collapse emotionally, just want the world to end right now. They might go into depression, feeling intense shame, feel rejected. They go into what's known as a narcissistic collapse, and I have made a video on that previously if you want to watch that. But a narcissistic collapse occurs when none of their schemes, excuses, behaviors, or defense mechanisms work. Or they can become bitter and vindictive. They may attempt to devalue or dehumanize others. They engage in counter-criticism. This often involves attacking the person, not addressing their comments. Some might make dismissive or sarcastic remarks. Some may even act as if they're above the criticism. Some may go into what's referred to as a narcissistic rage. This is when they lash out aggressively and, in some extreme cases, violently. So in conclusion, narcissistic resistance to criticism stems from a deep-seated need to maintain their self-image as being faultless, superior, and entitled. They perceive criticism as a direct threat to their self-worth, and this can lead them to react defensively and reject any feedback that challenges their self-perception. Even if someone disagrees with their viewpoints, they may respond aggressively or passive-aggressively. So instead of engaging in rational discussion, They may resort to tactics to protect their fragile ego. This can involve personal attacks and derogatory language to silence and demean the other person. Even if the criticism is constructive, it's coming from a good place, it can still be threatening to narcissistic people because it may be evidence that they are flawed and capable of error just like everyone else. But to be reminded of these things can bring up a deep-rooted shame, and they can take it pretty hard. And my final thoughts are that when people are open to constructive feedback, they tend to learn something they can benefit from. However, with narcissistic people, that might mean having to admit that they were in error in the first place, which sadly, and often to their own detriment, they struggle with. And sometimes it's like they dig their heels in, they double down, and they keep doing the same things over and over again in a misguided belief that maybe it'll become right. So that's a brief outline of narcissistic people and their resistance to criticism. Now, as always, if there's anything I've missed, anything you'd like to add, please use the comment box below. As always, there are some interesting conversations start from these videos. But if you find this video interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.